What's up, everybody? It's Matt. I'm on the phone this week because I don't feel like wearing the hat. It's hot and I'm in the garage, and it's that time of year where I had that huge worm die off last year. Now the difference between last year and this year is last year I was traveling. I was in Kentucky for a month, and then when I got back here to Louisiana, I was on the road for like 3 weeks straight. So that's different this year. I'm gonna be home thanks to COVID and just general work changes, you know. So I'm gonna show you guys how I am maintaining my bait worms and what I'm doing to combat this heat. If you don't know, Louisiana gets hot. All right, I'll be right back. I showed y'all how I built my bait bins, and I'm gonna take you guys inside of them now so you can see how they're doing. This bin right here has been going for 3 or 4 weeks already. As you can see, it's pretty good and worked over on top. When we get down in here, there they are. Not very far at all, and you start seeing worms. Lots of big, beautiful European Nightcrawlers. They should be pretty evenly scattered throughout here. This is peat moss, and I don't know if you remember a few weeks ago that Frable bedding that I showed y'all. This is peat moss, Frable, and cardboard mixed up. You really cannot see any cardboard. Maybe there's a piece. They have gotten through it really good. This tray I will run 2 pounds of worms through, usually 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds, and keep them in here, feed them like I talked about last week. Look at that. Them boys right there are gonna catch some fish for me. There are a lot of cocoons in here. Maybe next week I'll go in and show you how I hatch cocoons or what I do with my cocoons. But as you can see, these European Nightcrawlers are feisty. So the moisture content, I don't want to squeeze anything because I might crush a worm. It's a little bit dry. So what I'm going to do now is take my pump sprayer right there, and I'm just spraying this down, giving it a drink. I don't want this sopping wet. I just want it to be moist. I don't know if you can hear it in the background or not, but I've got a fan right there that blows across these totes and bins to keep air moving. So these things, they tend to dry out a little bit on the sides where that cardboard doesn't cover. But I fluff these bins a couple times a week, keep everything loose and airy, check the moisture on it, make sure the worms are doing all right. And that's pretty much all I do with it. It is not a feeding night for this bin, for none of the bins, so none of them are getting fed. But I just wanted to do a follow-up to show you that this is really how I run my bait worms. So that's it for that bin. Now we're gonna move over to this gray bin. It is just like the one I set up on camera, except for it's gray, not black. It has 1 pound of European Nightcrawlers in it. So let's check it out. As you see, it's got a lot of cardboard. I just started this bin this week, so everything in here is fresh. There shouldn't hardly be any castings other than the castings I mix up with my bedding when I start, because as we all know, worms don't like sterile environments. But that's some good looking worms. I don't really expect there to be any cocoons in here because these worms haven't been in here very long. But these worms are starting to mature and starting to develop the clitellum. You see that little light streak right there? Healthy worms, boys. Healthy worms, boys and girls. Boys and girls. But yeah, that's the simple bait container that I made on video last week. This is it. Like I told y'all last week, I'm not going to show y'all something that I don't do myself. There's a Lowe's mortar tray, and here's a bait container. These bait containers, I run about 1 pound of worms in them. In this size, that one will hold 2 easy. But I don't try to go that big, because if you give your worms more room, they will get bigger. yeah, that's it for this week's video. I am not feeding this week. Well, not tonight anyway. I have a schedule because I don't like to overfeed my worms, and there's plenty of stuff in here for them to eat. There's all this cardboard, and that's kind of how I gauge when to change out the bins, is based on the amount of cardboard that's left in here. But as you can see, the worms are happy, healthy, doing good. So let me cover that up, and I'm going to show you all how I'm trying to combat this heat. I showed you that fan right there, right? It blows across these bins over here. This is awesome. It's just a wood shelf I made, and it's got little strips of lumber that I could set these trays across. I'll put this one back so you can see it. Sets in there just like that. Good to go. Over here is this metal shelf that I found on Craigslist. And, not Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, whatever, same thing. I set it up to where my vermi bag sits underneath it. And I've got room for, realistically, I could put about 8 bait trays on there. But that would be ridiculous. How many pounds of worms do I need for bait? 1 pound, 2 pounds, 3 pounds, 4 pounds, 5.5 pounds. There's more to that over there that we'll talk about later. Plus the vermi bag as insurance. So I've gone 2 weeks without updating the vermi bag. And the reason for that is I massively fed it last week. It didn't even really need fed. But I had a lot of stuff I had to clear out the freezer, so I way overfed it. So you definitely don't want to look in there right now. It's gonna be a slimy mess. But back to how I'm trying to cool this. You saw me keep everything good and moist. Fan. I'm going for evaporative cooling here. I've got the fan pointed up at those totes. Shut it off so you can hear. Just trying to keep air moving, guys. The garage averages about 90 degrees, and inside the worm bins is staying under 80, which is not great, but it's a lot better than 90 degrees. All right, y'all, that's it for this week's video. I am trying to do different things on the channel instead of just showing you how I worm compost. Everybody's got, that makes worm videos, will talk about worm composting. I love it, and I do it, and I'm gonna keep making videos about it, but something I noticed is nobody wants to tell you how to raise your own bait. I'm trying to change that. I just wanna show you guys that you can do it. It's not that complicated, and man, it is great just walking out in the garage, scooping up a handful of worms, and going fishing. Not having to go to Walmart, not having to go to the bait store. It is amazing. My kids love it. We've got a near limitless supply of bait worms. It's amazing. It is amazing. So next up, a couple of weeks, I'm building some things that are going to hopefully make worming a little bit easier. And if I can get them built and proof them, I'll be sharing those with you too, so you can really be successful in your worming as well. But that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good weekend. Stay safe and roll tide.